WWE wrestlers. Joining us now, former WWF wrestler Lanny Poffo and the ex-wife of Stone Cold Steve Austin and former wrestler Debra Marshall is with us. All right, Lanny, it seems to be that, we have some wrestlers on that will state the obvious, tell the truth, that it was widely known in the industry that this was commonly used, these steroids. Will you admit that they are?
I didn't come here to besmirch the reputations of some very great men. I almost don't deserve to be here because
How about tell the truth about a problem where these guys may be affected in a negative way, that they become violent and maybe help save other people's lives and other people from violence?
That's what I want to do.
Why don't you just tell the truth?
I want to tell the truth.
So is it widely known that steroids are used by professional wrestlers?
Steroids are used all over the board, and steroids are the worst thing in the world. And I'd like to get to the bottom of it too.
But specifically, it's used in the wrestling world.
It's used in bodybuilding. It's used in baseball. I mean,
I didn't ask you about baseball or bodybuilding. I asked you if you know, as an insider, that steroids were commonly used. This is a simple question.
Yes, steroids are commonly used. However, I urinated in more cups in the World Wrestling Federation than I did urinals.
I appreciate that. Debra, we've had you on the show a number of times, and you've been very outspoken. You've taken a lot of heat for your commentary, but there is this mysterious resistance, there's almost this code of silence. Nobody wants to admit what we all know. Why?
I know. That's what it is. I'm listening to Lanny, and I'm going, Lanny, you know what goes on here. I was married to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the thing about Steve, he didn't have to take that test. If Steve didn't want to take the steroid test, he wouldn't. I mean, that's what gets me so upset, are the guys that are protecting all our friends that are ended up dying taking all these steroids, and something's got to be done. Someone has to speak up here. Well, Lanny, and I just don't understand it.
But Debra lived through and has described on this program something called roid rage. Now that we got you to admit that the steroid, you did. That steroid use is common.
I want to say one thing that has happened with the steroid rage, and I've never said this to anyone, but one time Steve was on one of those rages, and he put a gun to my head and said, Debra, if you're so upset with me, why don't you pull the trigger? And I'm like, Steve, calm down, take your finger off the trigger. I mean, who's to say that that second couldn't have been, and I would have been dead? It's stuff like that. It's
Debra,
crazy.
How often did that kind of incident happen?
That would happen all the time, and it would be, I mean, the last time that Steve hit me on one of his rages was because I had company at my house. These rages will go off for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to see these other wrestlers,
Lanny,
and they take up for this.
Lanny, did you take steroids?
Actually, yes. I experimented with steroids one time. The year was 1989. It was the summer of my discontent. I'm very ashamed to say, in May and June of 1989, I took steroids, and I had two very bad side effects, and I never took them again.
What were the side effects?
Side effects was acne vulgaris and testicular atrophy. Now, I'm happy to say that, as you can see, my acne cleared up, and you'll have to take my word for it that the testicular atrophy is back to normal.
What about mood changes? Did you experience any mood changes?
I'm the most benign man you've ever met. I'm like a freak in that nature.
So there was no mood change. And have you seen other wrestlers, though, using these substances, go through mood swings?
Yes.
Could you give me an example?
No.
Why not?
It's just that it's all been documented. Wrestling is very, very stressful. It was also the greatest 8 years of my life when I was with the World Wrestling Federation.
Are you trying to protect the WWE or trying to protect fellow wrestlers? Is that why you don't want to be more specific about what you've seen?
I'm no longer on the payroll. I'm healthy, wealthy, and free. I have nothing to fear, and nobody's got any strings on me.
Why wouldn't you want to help us shed some light on this as somebody who experienced this and was there?
I want to shed light on it. I'm here to do that. I appreciate the fact that you asked me back. And I wish it was a world where there were no steroids. I'm ashamed to admit that I did take steroids, but it was an experiment. I failed, I flunked, and I figure if I can help one child, just like I think it's wonderful what Debra is doing.
Well, can't you help by giving, for example, you don't even have to mention names, but couldn't you share with us something, what you've experienced, some of what you've seen? Does it match what Debra is talking about in terms of what she experienced with her husband?
There's a visual test that is very conclusive. If it looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. There's a body you get from natural bodybuilding, and there's a body you get from freakiness.
All right. We'll be back in just a moment.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. More on the Benoit family tragedy coming up after the break. Still to come tonight.